Hello everyone, Michael Masseri here, and I haven't done one of these types of videos in a while. In 2019, I made a video where I ranked every Cuphead boss based off of their idle animation. Yes, I know that's a stupid idea for a video. Then in 2021, I made a video where I gave Pokemon types to Mario Super Sluggers characters and Clash Royale characters. So I decided to combine the two ideas together. Today, I'm giving every boss in Cuphead a Pokemon type. Let's start with Inkwell Isle One. The first boss in the game is the Root Pack. All three of them are grass typed, but they each have a different second type. The potato is grass ground because he shoots balls of dirt from his mouth. The onion is grass water because he cries tears, and the carrot is grass psychic because he attacks with the psychic eye beam. Next up is Goopy Legrand, and some bosses are gonna have their types change throughout the battle. So just base form Goopy in the first phase is water type. I was thinking poison, but since there's water in the background of his fight, I'm assuming that he's just made out of water. Then he pops a pill and gets bigger and gains a boxing glove, so water fighting. And then in the final phase, he dies and his type completely changes to Ghost Rock because he's a tombstone. The third boss in Inkwell Isle One is Ribby and Croaks. You might think water fighting, but I'm guessing pure fighting. There's nothing really water about their moveset at all. And then their final phase, they combine together and transform into a slot machine, which I'm predicting to be steel type because most slot machines are made out of metal and he shoots coins. Then everyone's favorite boss with a banger ass music, Cagney Carnation, pure grass type. All of his moves, he's a flower, they're just all grass, no need for a second type. And then the plain boss battle of Isle 1 is Hildeberg. I'm guessing psychic flying. All of her moves have to deal with some sort of like constellation in the stars, and she even transforms into the moon at the end, so it makes sense for psychic, and flying because she is a blimp. Let's move on to Isle 2. Baroness von Bonbon and 4 of her minions will be fairy type. Those being the Candy Corn, Jawbreaker, Muffin, and Gumball Machine. The reason why is because most Pokemon in the actual games, like Swirlix and Alcremie, are based on desserts, and they're also fairy type. The only one of her minions that's not fairy type is the Waffle, which is fairy flying. Next up is Beppy the Clown. Many people think that clowns are evil, so I'm gonna give him the dark type. We're thinking maybe dark flying because of his balloon phase, but I'm gonna give him the dark type and 4 different abilities for each of his phases. Speaking of abilities, we have Grim Matchstick, which is Dragon Fire with the ability Levitate, because he's a flying dragon. Next up is an actual plane battle, even though Grim should have been. We have Wally Warbles, which is a pure flying type, because he's just a bird. His son, Willy Warbles, is a flying psychic type because in his death quote, he says, "My dad's the brawn and I'm all brains." And another boss with a big brain is Jimmy the Great. I'm gonna say ground psychic. Ground because you fight him in the desert, he transforms into stone pillars, and even transforms into a coffin, which I guess can be buried underground, and psychic because of his magical powers as a genie. Now it's time to head to the big city in Inkwell Isle 3. First off, we have the police officer bee, which will be bug flying because he's a bug that flies. Rumor Honeybottoms herself will be bug fairy because she's a queen and her magic attacks have pink projectiles. And then in her final phase, she transforms into a plane. We give him bug steel type because she has an axe hand attack. Speaking of steel types, we have Werner Roman and the cat in his final phase. All of his phases are steel type because, spoiler, this cat is actually a robot. Now I move down to the shore where we find Captain Brinybeard. He's just a normal type because he's just a normal human. And then, in his final phase, his boat transforms into a narwhal. So we'll be giving him the water type. Another water type is Calamaria. Water and fairy because she's kind of hot, you know what I'm saying? And then she transforms into Medusa for her second and final phase. We'll be giving her water rock because Medusa turns people into stone, and that's what she does too. Next up, Sally stage play. All of her phases are normal type, even the one where she transforms into like an angel god or something like that. It's just a cardboard cutout of her. It's not really a god, so it's just normal. And then, the bane of my existence, everyone's least favorite boss in the game, Dr. Cal's robot, is a steel electric type, and in his final phase, when we see the doctor himself, he is steel and psychic, because doctors are smart. I was running out of room on the slide, so I made a second slide to talk about my favorite boss in the game, the Phantom Express. All 4 members of this boss battle are ghost type, but just like the Root Pack, they have a different second type. First up is the ghost with hands for eyes. I gave him Ghost Psychic, because in his death quote he says, "I can see into the future." Then we have, I believe his name is T-Bone, and he will be Ghost Fighting because he uses his fists to slam down on the tracks. Despite their name, the Blaze Brothers are not Ghost Fire type, they are Ghost Electric type, because they shoot electric beams out of their eyes. And finally, the head of the train is Ghost Steel, obviously because the head of the train is metal. The first boss in Inkwell Hell is the Tipsy Troop. We're gonna give them the water poison type. Water because they are drinks, and poison because if you drink too much alcohol, it could kill you. Then we have Chips Bennigan. This may sound weird, but I'm giving him the ground type, because poker chips are made out of clay, which can be found in the ground. Mr. Wheezy is fire poison. Fire because he's a cigar, and poison, same with the Tipsy Troop, if you smoke too much you die. Then we have Pip and Dot, normal type, because dominoes are made out of plastic and there's no plastic type. What's his name? Hoppus Pocus would be psychic type. Fear Lap is ghost flying because the saying that horses fly by, and he's even flying in the battle. Pirouetta is a steel type because roulette wheels are metal. Mangostein's a dark type because it's a black 8-ball, like the dark type. And then the evil monkey from Toy Story 3 is also a dark type because I hate this boss. Everyone hates this boss. Nobody likes RNG in their video games. Then we have the 2 big men. We have King Dice himself. We'd give him the dark psychic type because he's wearing purple and he's a pretty smart guy. And his boss, the big man downstairs, the devil, giving him dark fire. Dark because he's evil, and fire because hell. And now it's time for Inkwell Isle 4, starting with the Moonshine Mob. I think the spider's name is Charlie. He'll be given Bug Dark type. We all thought that he's the leader of the mob, but it's revealed not to be. But he still gives off that dark type vibe. Then we have the Flapper Firefly. I don't know her actual name, but Bug Fairy makes sense because she's pink and likes to dance. Then we have the Anteater, which is a ground type because anteaters eat dirt and ants that are in the ground. And then the boss itself, I know it's not an official type, but I feel like if they do add the sound type, then this guy would definitely be Bug Sound. Then, heading up north, we have Glumstone the Giant, so obviously a rock type, and then in his final phase, you fight his stomach. And since you're surrounded by stomach acid, that makes sense to be poison. Mortimer Freeze is weird. His first phase is going to be Ice Psychic, his second phase is going to be Ice Fighting, and then in his final phase, you'll go back to Ice Psychic. Then we have the Howling Aces. They're just normal mammals that fly. So phase 1 and phase 2 are normal flying. And then the lady that everyone likes to simp over, I don't know why, but she's a steel flying type because you actually fight her in the plane, like the actual big steel plane. And then Esther Winchester would be ground type in all of her phases. This may sound dumb, but I guess you consider her to be ground beef. Okay, I'll move on. And wrapping up Isle 4, we have the most obvious twist villain in the history of twist villains. Chef Saltbaker would be Steel Dark. Dark, obviously, because the guy is fucking crazy. And Steel because you use steel things to cook, like pans, and of course he already has a knife in his first phase, but he never actually uses the knife, he just cuts up the ingredients. So he'll stay Steel Dark for all of his phases, except for his last one, where you fight his heart. That makes sense to be Steel Fairy. And then, the Angel and Devil secret boss fight. We already gave Dark Fire to the Devil, so we're gonna give the Angel the opposite types, Fairy and Ice. Hold on, am I forgetting a boss? Or 5? Of course! How could I forget? The last 5 bosses in this game are the bosses from the King's Leap, which can only be defeated by parrying. So each of the King's troops will have the Steel type as their second type, but a different primary type. So starting with the pawns, they are normal Steel, because pawn is the most normal piece in chess. Then we have the Knight, which is fighting Steel, because he fights a lot, he attacks with a sword, he charges towards you. Then we have the Bishop, which is Psychic Steel. He moves his head around, it spins all over the place, and his head turns pink, like the Psychic type. Then we have the Rook, which is also Dark Steel type, like Saltbaker, because he cuts off people's heads, which is kind of messed up. And finally, the Queen, Her Majesty, is Fairy Steel, the best type in the game, and she obviously has a lot of steel, and she's royal. Well, I hope all of you enjoyed this video. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out this video, you might like it, and check out any other video I made, because I need some money. I need to go on vacation.